Hi, I'm Outdoors writer David Figura, and today I'm with Greg First, co-founder and current CEO of the Venison Donation Coalition, which is celebrating its 20th year this year. It's a program in which hunters can donate their extra deer to participating meat processors across the state. The venison is then processed and makes its way to regional food banks, local food pantries, senior programs, soup kitchens, veteran programs, you name it. And what's amazing to me is that in the 20 years this program has been operating, more than 700.3 tons of venison has been donated by hunters to needy families. That makes, once again, this is a big number here, more than 5,600,000 meals that have been supplied. And this year with the COVID-19 pandemic, these food banks and pantries can use all the help they can get. I'm here today with Greg, again, of Bath in Steuben County. And Greg is a former DEC wildlife technician, and he's been involved in the program since its beginning. Greg, how did it start?
The DEC unit, the wildlife unit, held a series of meetings back in the late 90s, open to the public, the future of deer hunting, and sportsmen came to every one of those meetings around the state, and the top suggestion was to create a venison donation program the sportsmen didn't have to pay for themselves. So the DEC started up the program, and myself as working at the time, was assigned to see what would happen. The eagerness that is out there now still continues, 20 years later with volunteers all over the state, not to mention all the sportsmen that donate the deer year to year. So it was started late 90s. The coalition actually became a not-for-profit a couple of years later. So it is formally a volunteer-based not-for-profit incorporation that helps the food banks gather this meat.
How much venison did this program take in last year?
Last year, we were estimating around 67,000 pounds. That's pretty close to the annual average of 70,000 pounds over that 20-year period. The early 2000s, I exceeded the take, or the gathering of donated venison exceeded 105,000 pounds.
Wow.
And that was the years, if sportsmen and other listeners remember, the deer herd was burgeoning. There was a lot of excess doe permits out there, and a lot of donations happened as a result of that. So,
what are the restrictions about a hunter donating their deer to this program? Is roadkill accepted?
No, roadkills aren't accepted. You just don't know what's happening internally with that deer that gets smacked by a car. So most occasions it's going to be pretty unsafe to process and to distribute. In a nutshell, a hunter can drop off a legally tagged deer and is properly field dressed at a participating processor throughout the state. There's about 90 processors in maybe 46 to 50 of the counties. And we'd urge the sportsman to call ahead. If that processor's coolers are full, he may very well be turning away all of his business. So we don't want you harvesting a deer with the expectation to donate it and arrive to your chosen processor to find that he's turning away business at that time. So call ahead, participating processors, drop off your properly field dressed, legally tagged deer, no cost to the sportsman, and the food banks pick up the frozen venison from the processor.
Can I process my own deer and just drop off the venison to one of these processors?
Yeah, it's kind of a gray area. You may be able to and take it to a local pantry. You're probably not going to have the large food banks accepting it. I mean, they're dealing with tons and tons of food on a daily basis. And to drop off 40 pounds of a processed deer from an individual probably isn't going to go over too well. But the local pantry may very well accept it. That's a question for for those guys to pose to their local pantries, usually operated out of churches.
Right. Who are these processors and what's in it for them?
Well, the deer processors are neighbors, friends, hardworking blue-collar folks that have been sometimes working a full-time job at a price chopper, and maybe they're processing deer on their weekends and after hours to put their families through college. The deer processors are scattered throughout New York State. Some are very, very large. Other ones maybe only do 50, 60 deer a year. We find those, and DEC is always in those processors' facilities doing the biological checks on the deer. So that's how we locate where the processors are year to year. And they're encouraged to participate. And if they want to, they're paid $2 a pound for the processed venison that is frozen and picked up from them.
How does one go about finding a processor close by to them?
The venison donation website is very simply venisondonation.com. You go to the link or the tab, find a processor, and you can do a search by county, or if you know a zip code, it's all right there. I always encourage everybody to go to the tab that says download entire processor list. That way you'll see them listed county by county. There may not be one close to your residence, but there might be one over the hill or on the way to your hunting area where you could also drop it off. And that is the most current list on the website. We do have some that drop off now and then. We're talking to 2 new ones right now to be added. We don't know if that'll happen this week, next week, or the day before gun season, but that list is updated, and that's the best way. venisondonation.com, find a processor.
Now, anyone who's ever dealt with venison, you know there's a variety of cuts, you know.
Right.
What form does the venison make its way to the food pantries?
The most versatile is the ground venison. A lot of folks, especially if they're in urban areas where they're receiving the product, aren't familiar with cooking venison. So ground meat, hamburgers, chilies, soups, meatloafs, meatballs is very popular. We also allow the processors to provide regular cuts, stew meat, steaks, roasts. So the processor has a choice, and we can do regular cuts if they choose to do so.
Oh, wow. Now, the past couple of years, the program has run into some financial challenges. And you're saying it was initially covered by the DEC. How long was that?
Well, the first 10 years, there was state grants that were provided, and there were many other agencies that participated as part of the coalition, including the food banks. So there was a lot of services in lieu by staff that were allowed to do necessary tasks as part of their regular everyday job. We've continued with different grants for 20 years, and the grants aren't keeping pace with what we need to be paying the processors. They currently work for less than their retail rates.
Wow.
We started out at $1 a pound. We're currently at $2 a pound, which reflects 5% inflation every year. However, that's usually not enough. They're working at reduced rates. You know, all their costs, including disposing of deer, processing waste, the paper, the staffing, costs keep going up and up. And the processors are our front line. Without them, it doesn't happen. And we'd really like to beef up our funding to be able to pay those processors what they're really worth.
So what is the program status financially right now, and how is it being funded?
The largest funding comes from a grant that is held by the State Food Bank Association. That grant is limited to how much of it can be spent on processing, and we're right at the max. Other than that, the coalition has a very small budget, private donations. We get a few small grants here and there, which causes us to have to hire a grant writer to receive those. One thing a lot of your listeners could help us with, when you buy your license, you can contribute $1 or more. We find that the license agents typically don't ask you to donate when they sell you your license. So I would encourage everybody to tell the license agent you want to donate $1 or more to support venison donation. Over 500,000 deer hunters in New York, if everybody threw in $1 every year, the program would easily pay for itself, and we could expand it and provide even more meals.
A single dollar per hunter.
Correct.
Doesn't sound like very much.
No,
You know,
the trick is to tell the clerk you want to donate it. Or you could go right on to the venisondonation.com website and donate via PayPal. And it's a very secure site. And we are recognized by a couple of the different charity rating companies that are out there as a reputable charity, 501c3 incorporated.
And I understand recently, or maybe starting last year and this year, you're getting help from the Buffalo Bills football team?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Sure. Well, the NFL has a program called My Cleats, My Cause, where football players are allowed to choose a charity, and they wear a pair of cleats bearing the logo of the charity during a certain game, usually in early December. Then those cleats are auctioned off through the NFL, and all the proceeds go to the charity. So for 2 years running now, Trent Murphy, who's a defensive end in Buffalo, has done that, and he's also now become our official spokesman and a board member. And if you follow football at all, and up in the Western New York area, we now have the services of a marketer who's developed an Instagram account for Venison Donation Coalition. And of course, we're followed by Trent Murphy, and he has many, many more followers than me or you. But it's kind of exciting to see all the connections there, and the help from a big guy that wants to help the communities, and he's doing a good job of it. So we appreciate that help for sure.
Well, that's fantastic. But once again, I mean, I just go back to that one point. You know, there's more than ever, it just seems like there's more people hunting, particularly this year with the hunter safety courses being offered online completely.
Right.
We've got a big bump in the number of people who are hunting. Right. I mean, I guess I'm thinking about this. $1 per hunter would put you guys in good financial stead, you know, and
Sure
it's not that much.
No, we would have a 3-year goal of reaching 100,000 pounds annually, and we could probably be paying the processor closer to the $2.50 or $3 a pound that they deserve. And the DEC certainly has deer management units where additional harvest is needed. There's some urban communities now holding deer culls because the deer have basically moved in to live with us humans where you can't hunt. So there are deer culls being conducted, and that venison also comes through the program.
And bottom line is, it gives hunters a good name in the general public.
Absolutely. And it feels good. I would challenge the guys to donate that first deer, and you'll have a gratifying feeling the rest of that season. And you may even get the biggest buck of your life because you're continuing to be out in the woods looking to harvest the deer for your freezer after you've donated that first one. So it can be fun, and we certainly have a lot of opportunity with every sportsman and able to legally harvest up to 9 deer each. So
that's with all the seasons, right? Yeah.
All the seasons you could participate in, you could harvest 9 deer. So.
Well, Greg, thank you very much, and good luck with your program this year. It's a great cause, and I wish you all the luck.